with the 63 Cutlass, f85. Okay, so I started doing the lines. Basically did all the lines. Just got the last one coming up here. I was kind of thinking of putting a proportioning valve in. If you do four-wheel drum, you really have to put a four-wheel disc proportioning valve in so it's equal in that sense. I want to do it for the safety part. Now this is the master cylinder, the Ford Fairmont one, and as you can tell, I got it nice and level, which is impossible on this car, just by bolting it to the wall because it's at an angle. I figured out the angle would be about 15 degrees. And anybody who puts in one of these masters, you see, there's a, right down here, there's a little dip down in the. Of course, my light's not working on my phone. There's a dip down here on the metal. Back at it with the 63 F85. I did the front brakes, which you can use the 2-inch brakes, 2-inch wide brakes for the, you know, like a 64. And as I said in the other video, I had a big problem. I had to put adapters on the hoses. I hope that video came out okay. Anyway, so big problem with the rears. I had to order them because it ends up being you can't put 2-inch ones. Number one, because of the center, it pushes these out a little bit, and that really wasn't my main concern because everything fit up here. The anchor pin and everything fit just fine. I was going to convert it to the other style. See, this is for a newer car with the little hook there instead of the pin, but because it's not an inch and 7, you know, 1.75 inches or 1.78, whatever they have it, but it's 2 inches. It's not so much the drum surface. It's really where the hub is. So what happens is the hub hits the, before you can get it to the hub, it hits the edge of the drum hits the back, you know, this side of the brake shoe. And even though there's plenty of machine surface for it, it's just not in the right place. They could very easily, somebody makes new drums for this, and they say it's for 1.7 inches, you know, 1.75 inches. But in reality, there is 2 inches here. They can make the drum more square. Now, I don't know what impact that has on the rims, but, you know, because maybe the rim comes down a little bit, but not really a big deal. But to get the master in, see what I did here? That's a lug nut. That's a 7/16 lug nut with a heavy-duty grade 8 bolt. And you see that? I shoved a piece of radiator hose in there. I put epoxy on the edges, just wanted to stick. But in the end, I guess I see daylight right there, which I can put a little bit of, you know, that's the rubber that was squeezing in there. It's basically a radiator hose. I cut a piece off, but it's probably too big. But it's kind of good because it'll, I don't know if it'll help it breathe or what I was thinking, but, you know, if you can get one that's the perfect size for this, but it basically, you know, crushed it all in there. I don't know why this phone, now it's dark. That's just too crazy for me. This phone is, anywho, I don't know if I can show you. Right there. See that dip, that semicircular dip here? That's a relief in the body for the master cylinder. Now, on my other car, and the other car that I had, the 63 Buick Special I had videos on from a few years ago, I grinded that down more so I can fit the master cylinder. But this was much better. Look how level that is. That's perfectly level by putting in these little guys, you know. But like I said, it's not as deep. It's only so far, and it ends up sitting level. And I got the lug nut on the other side, so it's like a ball. So it finds the center, and I nailed it tight with my impact gun. Like I said, I could use a little smaller bolts. They're a little bit on the long side, and this master is a little bit, it's not as wide, you know, so it's kind of fighting, but that's good. It's tight, you know. But you might be able to see that both of the bolts here are kind of, yeah, I can see from up here maybe. They're both kind of angled in a hair, but there's room for that, but it's solid as anything. It ain't going nowhere. So I got the smaller piston master, so I have more pressure with the bigger, the bigger wheel cylinders in the front with the wider shoes in the front. So I think I'm going to get more equal braking. That's kind of why I want the proportioning valve, though, added, just in case. So, ultimately it shouldn't really make too much of a difference. But I did somebody's dual master one time without a proportioning valve. They had like a 1960. They blew a brake line, and they already had like shitty front brakes. Maybe we didn't do them yet or something like that. And he basically had no brakes at that point, just with the broken brake line. So he didn't have the little bit of master at the end. And that's why I think the proportioning valve is good for a lot of cars. So, but that can't look more stock. You can't even tell I have those spacers in the back. It made a huge difference right there. I don't know why they put that stupid angle, but that's a pretty simple fix on something that is a pain in the ass on these cars. And I didn't have to grind the chassis. Like I said, it's perfectly level. I got two nice big reservoirs. Because the Jeep one is not very big, and all the other manual brake ones are kind of shitty in that sense, that they don't have a lot of, fluid, Because I don't care what anybody says, I like to have more fluid. It's a pain in the ass when you're bleeding it and everything, so I shall see if I end up using the stock thing and say, screw it, because I don't see myself having any brake issues, being that I'm having all new lines and everything new. So, but that's my tip for the day. I mean, that's pretty killer, Like I said, I would probably just end up using the Corvette master cylinder, although it is bigger, so maybe just either a regular GM style with the flip cap on the top. Even if it's a manual one, they have some manual ones that have the flip cap, but if you look on Rock Auto, there's like one brand who has it, and then I bought that brand, and it was the one with the bolt in the middle. Like, who wants the bolt? I gotta go check my fluid, let me get a wrench, like, you just want to open it up and add it. So my attempt at painting that didn't come out so good because I used the filler primer that I had and I didn't realize it. Anyway, so that's that. I still got to flare this line. Like I said, I'm debating whether or not I put it into a proportioning valve. If I had the proportioning valve, I'd be done with it already. But I know I have one that was mailed to me accidentally that was a four-wheel disc, and I ended up keeping it. So the four-wheel disc you want to use on a four-wheel drum because it's equal in as far as the hydraulic system is concerned. It's not like this massive amount of braking difference between the front and rear, where you need the basically, I think it's like what do they call that, a residual check valve inside it, where it gives a little pressure to the rear. It's really not necessary, and I can always add one of those residual things in the rear anyway. Really not going to need it, by far, So, that being said, and all my mess that I like to make, this is going rather well. I actually pressure washed the whole car on the outside, but I pressure washed all these rails. I pressure washed the floors to really get rid of whatever rust was hanging. As you can see, there's pretty big holes. You can see the rocks underneath, and all this was it's all rusty here, but you see this insulation, it was just basically all crumbling, and it was disgusting, and I wish I got more of it when I was nailing it, but I nailed the fuse box even, and the fuses actually look a lot cleaner. I gather I'll be changing the fuse box anyway, but that would be a miracle if everything started working again, I guess this is some kind of stereo. This thing here is stuck, it don't work. There's somebody rigged something here. I guess this was a thing in the 60s. They just put tape on it and they put it on this emergency brake line. And there's a little thing here that says brake. I would love to get something like this for other cars because it looks classic. Looks like for the time. And it's something they just added in there. They just drill a hole and put it in and you're done. And I think that's awesome, And yeah, these are all seized up. All this I couldn't move. That's the switch. I'll probably have to put a new one. Fucking light switch is like $56, and I'm like, I don't remember paying for that, but it actually works, so I'm going to back off. I have another one of these for a 63 because I meant to put a 63 style in my 62, but now I'll probably just save it for this. If this one doesn't work, I gather the motor is tied up. I mean, I had to free up a lot of things on my 62 because the same idea with the bad windshield leak. But I think that came out pretty good right there. I might be able to force the rubber into the hole. you know, in hindsight, but I could just shove some silicone on that. I'm not really worried about it, you know, and that's not rust, that's like red primer and shit, but to me that looks killer, and it's just like, it's insulating it, and it's just big enough, and it just changes the angle enough, but not so much that I have to put, as you can see, the piston to the hole here where this rod goes. It should go pretty well, you know. I think it'll find its center. I don't see it being an issue. And you can see what I did with the bolts here compared to that top bolt. Whatever. It looks worse on camera, but it's not as bad on the firewall. But you can tell the angled acorn there, it just finds its center. And I don't see a problem with this at all. And the top bolt, the original bolt's still in, so that bracket ain't going nowhere. The master ain't going nowhere, so I think it's safe. It's not really an issue, you know. Like I said, maybe if I get the rest of this insulation out, maybe if I take out the heater box to see what's the deal with it, because I know there's a lot of crummy things about it. The hoses were crummy, that glove box is crummy, you know, the stench. But just real quick, I just changed the gas tank. I pulled out the gas tank to get it cleaned, and you know, like I put the belt on, but I got to get the wiring done. We'll make this wiring work. So I just wanted to add that into the belt. So I got to figure out the wiper motor, all that stuff. But when I get the electric up and running, I'll be able to, you know, assess everything. I try to free up things and get it going. But so far,